Okay, so we have Lara Murphy from Ryan Murphy Construction here with us today. Thanks for taking the time to join us here.
Thank you. No, my pleasure.
Awesome. So I typically just start these interviews off with hearing from you about your company. What makes you guys different in your niche? What are some cool things that you guys are maybe doing with your company right now? And just a little
Sure.
bit about you.
Okay. So Ryan Murphy Construction was founded in 2008, and we founded it. I founded with Karen, who's my business partner. So she's the Ryan, and I'm the Murphy. And essentially, we met on a job site in Banff, Alberta, in 2008, and struck up a conversation. At that time, we were the only two women on site, and we were doing work from, basically Karen was from Montreal coming here to work on a retail outlet, and I came in from Calgary, and we just started a conversation that eventually led to us founding the company. And the bulk of that conversation was based on some of the inconsistencies in our industry that we had experienced and observed, sort of thought about a way that we could improve and kind of make some ripples on how we approached clients, construction in general, and just more communicative and having a better dialogue. Because the industry is plagued with, bias and kind of a notoriously poor image. And so we just wanted to, one job at a time, try to change that perception. So again, that was '08. And from there, we've worked, I think from the very beginning, we wanted to establish more of a community-based model where, being women in construction, it's been everything for us. And we've really worked on our relationships, not only with our clients, but also with architects, designers, and our trade partners. So I think one thing that certainly sets us apart from other construction companies is that we will take the time and effort to work with our trade partners and help to make them successful and meet the deadlines and hold a certain quality standard that we really love to see. And our theory is if they're successful, we'll be successful. And so I know that the feedback we've received from a lot of our trade partners, and that could be a sheet metal company, a carpenter, or someone that polishes the concrete, they all really like that approach and find it refreshing. There are stories of, people coming in, banging their chest and saying, this is my job site. It's just not the way we roll. So I think that's a definite bonus, and it's really not about being male or female. It's all in your approach and the team effort. So, we've had amazing opportunity to work with so many unique businesses in Calgary, clients, entrepreneurs, and just everyday Calgarians. And through that, we've developed a real, I guess, just a respect, and I don't really know how to describe it. There's an energy in the city that feels good again, and I think people are getting more into their stride with how things are now and what we can do, and I just feel a real camaraderie around that because it's been a bit tumultuous.
Yeah,
to say the least.
For sure. That makes sense. What would you say that you love most about your industry?
I love the challenge of all of the moving parts. So there's a lot that needs to be accomplished within each project. Each project is absolutely unique from the others. So the learning never ends. And I think, as you know, any good leader or business owner is constantly learning and does not remain stagnant. So there's no question that you have to be on your toes all the time. And it's actually, in my opinion, a lot to do with the relationships, building them and solving problems. We kind of laugh and say it's not if something will go wrong, it's more when and how you deal with it. There's always something that will be a bit of a challenge or a hurdle, and that could be working within an old building, or perhaps drawings aren't quite what they need to be size-wise, etc. And I think that, we've become very good at problem solving and working with the team. But I love that every day is different, and that you're constantly challenging yourself on so many levels that it's really kind of an amazing thing, because there are several moving parts, and as the general contractor, you are responsible for all of those moving parts. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing.
I can totally appreciate the moving parts piece, and
sure.
and things always coming up. Was there, a big aha moment that you've had over the past, several years that you're like, oh man, that's maybe when it all changed, or man, that was big learning for me?
Right. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if I have one specific moment, but certainly there have been several that have, I guess, accumulated that have impacted my view, my feeling in the business, and how we've moved forward. I think some of the milestones, and I mean, you'd appreciate this because I keep a running total of the jobs that we've and clients that we've been able to secure. I have the date of the first client that was strictly just text message. Then I have our first Facebook lead client, and onward, right, through Twitter and Instagram. And those to me are amazing, because one of the key aspects that we've really tried to embrace at Ryan Murphy is using social media to tell a story, and to be open and frank and talk about what it is that we do, who we do it with, and how, and to really try to be an industry leader on the social front, because it's something that in the past wasn't really, there wasn't much of a presence from the construction side of things. So I think that's been a huge, I guess, aha, in the sense of each hurdle that we would jump over. Like, oh, okay, great. Wow, that post had 20,000 views. That's pretty amazing. Okay, who are those views, and how can we break it down, and who are we trying to speak to, and what's our message? So I think that that's been a very intriguing part of what we do. And then of course the milestones of, buying our first office space. Karen and I waited 5 years to hire our first employee, and that's Jen Westerveld, and we call her 001. So we wore many hats for many years, and I worked out of my basement office for a long time. And so definitely being able to take that leap of faith and purchase an office and hire our first employee, and then to see that the trajectory. I don't think, you can read as many books on leadership in business, but until you're in it, it's hard to grasp the effect hiring a really competent individual to work with you, how that will just push the momentum forward. And that's been absolutely amazing. So definitely an aha moment on that front, when you can learn to delegate and just give people tasks that sometimes they're better at than you, quite often, to be honest. So that's, I think, been a big one. And then the obvious, our first $1 million project, that was Junction 9 Yoga and Pilates studio in Inglewood, and for us that was a huge milestone. So definitely that would rank up there, and I feel it was a wildly successful project on all fronts. We were brought in early. We were able to work really well with all of the consultants, the designers, and the clients, and we have a great yoga studio too now. So it works out awesome.
That's fantastic. So I know we've talked a lot about success, but I'd love to hear if there was anything that you were identifying over the years. Is there something that held you back, maybe?
As far as a stumbling block?
Yeah.
I think when we incorporated the business, it was 2008, and our actual date is September 24th. And I believe the financial markets tanked the next week. And so for both Karen and I think like many entrepreneurs, you have a vision and a goal, and we have, you know, grand expectations of how this, what our idea is, because we're doing this, all of us are doing what we're doing in business and life, particularly as entrepreneurs or business owners, because we feel that we can solve a problem, right, and we feel we can solve it better than the next guy. So I think that when you get rattled, so, you know, we had several contracts lined up, that expansion plans for retail stores, and they just died. They were gone. They pulled out. They were mostly US based, and overnight we had nothing. And so in one sense, we didn't have anything to lose because we had just opened our business. But, you know, in the other, we were put in a position that we thought in our careers and our lives that we were much further ahead. And so, but what it did was it gave us the opportunity to work together and learn about one another, learn our strengths, our weaknesses, and I think a lot about tenacity. So literally we were back on the tools. And, you know, I remember one moment we had a food service contract for several chains here in the city in Calgary, and we would get called for different maintenance. And I mean, we were changing light bulbs, toilets, and whatever. I still laugh when I go to some of the establishments thinking, oh my God, I wonder if that's the toilet I changed. And literally I had called an individual to help spray out a grease bin in the parking lot for this restaurant, and he never showed. So I had to go and rent you know, a hazmat suit and a sprayer and get inside of this bin, which was for sure a challenging day. It was a cold fall day, and I remember thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? And, you know, but the next day I was, okay, this is all right. I can't get much worse. And you know, I know Karen jokes about that day and thinking that was it, that I'd be done. But, you know, it's not to say there's anything wrong with doing that as a career, but I think when you're thrown off kilter or put out of your comfort zone, it's definitely something that you either embrace it or it deters you. And most people, they're deterred by a lot of those situations. Right. Because usually when you're at the cusp of getting over a massive milestone, that's when most of us give up. So I think it just was a really good lesson for me to know that, okay, you know what, this is okay, and I can get through spraying greasy chicken parts out of a bin.
Oh, good on you. I don't know if all of us would have it in us to do it. So that's awesome. I know that you've touched on your 001, but I'd love to hear other key players on your team and kind of how they're positively impacting your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So one interesting thing about our company is we all approach each project in a team environment. So we will take on different parts of whatever it may be. So whether we're helping out on the quoting part, we're doing a presentation to a potential client, we're working on, you know, really nice glossy images of our previous projects. So everyone knows about the details of projects, what we're doing. We have weekly huddles, daily meetings, and really try to approach things from a team spirit. So the nice thing about being who we are, where we are, and when we are in Calgary is that I think that the exposure that we've been fortunate enough to get has really attracted some pretty amazing people to the table. So we have a series of project managers, site supers, and in-house accountant, many of which all of which are actually acquaintances that we've met or gotten to know through other jobs, working, and just relationships in general. So Jack, for example, is our accountant, and he's actually a neighbor of mine. And so, I mean, you want to talk about fireside chats, that's literally how we began the conversation and discussion around what it was that I did and what he did and how we could merge those together to form a partnership. And he came on board 2 years ago, and literally it's changed the whole scope of our working environment, the appreciation that we all have for basically the numbers tell the story. And as entrepreneurs, if that's not something that you are naturally akin to or drawn to, it can fall off the rails. And it's a big, big, big part of why many businesses don't survive, because it's easier just to be out doing what you're loving and not looking at the bottom line. No pun intended. But truly, that's been a major aspect and a huge milestone for us. And I give him credit for that every day, because there's a new awareness, and whether that's projecting into 2018 or looking back and almost doing forensic accounting on previous jobs and what made them successful and where we could improve, etc. It's been a big part of it. So he's a great addition to the team. And I know we have a new consultant working with us, Philip Jenkins, who was a mentor of mine when I first moved to Calgary. We worked at a development company together and struck up a great friendship, and have stayed in touch, and feel very fortunate to have him back on board as of the last month. So that's great. Huge. And then Jen Weisterveld is 001. So she's sort of been the backbone from day one of Karen and I taking that leap of faith to hire someone. And it's, looking back, I think that, we were ready when we were, and I don't think we necessarily waited too long. Because I think it's easy to say, oh, hire people for what you can't do, but you need to be able to pay them. So it doesn't always work that easily. So, I do find that depending on what industry it is, and I know when we first started and as the current situation is not a lot different, going through a bit of a downturn, margins become very tight, and you need to bring up that efficiencies in what you do, and really look at where you're doing it and how you can improve. And we also have Barb German, who was a site super with us a few years ago, and we actually she worked with us when we built Gravity Cafe in Inglewood, and so she's recently come back on board as of June 19th. So that's been amazing. And Kiki Tanfera working on our communications and marketing, and Karen, myself, and Christopher Hutchins, who's within the last 3 months come on board. So we've had a wonderful shift and growth that it's just been incredible. And everyone works very well together. So I feel quite fortunate.
That's wonderful. That's really great. What about things that you might do on a regular basis, even a daily basis, that helps propel you guys forward? Are there any rituals or habits that you follow?
Me personally, or the team?
You personally, and also if there's anything unique that your team does. Sure. I'd love to hear that too.
I think, again, definitely being in tune with one another, having lots of laughter in the office. We don't take each other too seriously. We're able to communicate and ask opinions. Everyone's very approachable, and nothing's off limits when it comes to asking questions, advice, how to approach a situation if there's, depending on the level of difficulty, because again, it's all about problem solving. So most certainly, I think that dynamic and energy is incredible. It's very positive, and everyone is just, I find it's very motivating, and all of us have a bit of a different skill set, so we can learn from one another. For me personally, I'm, up quite early every morning, and usually I go for a long walk with my dogs and do reading, and maybe look at what, I guess, for on the social media front, what we're looking at posting, where we're at with previous posts, different programs, etc., and then into the office quite early. I handle most of the business development and marketing. So for me, most evenings involve some type of an event. And that could be me speaking or just going to participate in a business event throughout. And there's no shortage. There's wonderful organizations throughout the city, and we're fortunate to be affiliated with many. But I think honestly that the sort of secret sauce to our group is the open and communicative style that we have, where we can just really be approachable with one another, and I don't think anyone feels pressured to do anything otherwise. So it's been in learning, and I think, again, I touched on that earlier, but for me, just being able to continue that, I always have 4 or 5 books on my nightstand, and love to read about other people's success stories, but also want to learn and cheer on people in general, but also people in business, and sort of just really celebrate those successes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a couple more questions for you. If you're looking back over the course of when you started till now, is there anything that you might have done differently?
I think I would have learned to say no earlier.
Okay.
I think that as business owners, there's a fine line between, oh my God, I need this client, or sort of that uncertainty with, you can plan and prepare and look to try to manage the workload as best as possible, but you truly, at some points in time, are at the mercy of whether it's the economy or just sheer timing. But at the end of the day, deep down, we all know when maybe a certain job's not the right fit, or you have sort of the spidey sense that something is up. And I think that, but it's hard to say no. Right. I think I would have learned a bit earlier in certain situations where I knew better to say no. That would be, nothing's awful, nothing's been terrible, but just in general, sometimes there's a better cohesiveness and sometimes there's not, and it's hard to pull your head up. And you always say that it's working in the business versus on the business are two very different things. I wish I'd hired a business coach earlier. I think that was a big game changer, and one of the other milestones that I would touch on. And, it can be very simplistic sounding exercises, but when you own your own business, you're not accountable to anyone. And to have someone that you have to go back to and produce results, or, give your progress as to what you've done and accomplished, it makes a big difference. And it's, for Karen and I, it was literally writing things down onto paper on what percentage we wanted to be spending doing what. So whether it was marketing or being on site, Karen does the operations and she loves it, but she would rather lose a pinky than get up and do an interview like this or talk in front of a large group. And I don't mind that work. Awesome. And so, until we really wrote down that kind of 80-20 where we wanted to be, and again, it sounds simplistic, but it can actually provide a lot of clarity. So if I were to look back, I probably would have prioritized hiring a coach much earlier.
That's fantastic advice, and I can so relate to that from my own career. So that's great.
Yeah.
The last thing I just want to ask is, where do you see you guys going in the future? I'm sure you've had a tremendous amount of success up till today's date, but I'm sure there's big plans and goals.
World domination.
Awesome.
We're right now in the process of, we've experienced our 5-year growth is 801%. So we've had a trajectory that's been rather tremendous. I think that we are at a point where I've been saying, we need to get our house tidy before we invite company over. We're working on our processes, planning, and really getting down to those forensic details on what it is that makes us successful and which projects and where we can expand. But definitely, we've had opportunity to work with some national brands, and that's something that I'd like to explore further, and not just on the retail, but also large landlords that have properties all over the country, and there's opportunity for more work in areas like Toronto, Vancouver, Victoria. So we do several jobs each year with certain retailers that basically they have a model in a store. We can replicate that. So we're working on acquiring more of those types of clients, and then eventually being able to expand into new cities and do that at a comfortable pace, because you do need good partners, and and certainly the ability to have the processes in order to make the model duplicatable. So I think for us, that's definitely top of mind, and really just have some fun, keep growing in Calgary, keep building relationships. I'm in awe every day of the city, and I love it. And just working with people, the support network, the individuals that, I'm constantly like jaw dropping awe. Like, we've got some amazing things happening, and it's great to be a participant. We still have lots of room to grow here at home, so I don't have a wandering eye. It's just a matter of getting the processes in place, but definitely we do have some pretty aggressive growth plans, but that includes our city. So it's not just the grass is greener, because it's interesting, and I'll just say quickly, but unless you've lived through a boom in Calgary, it's very hard to articulate what that feels like and to be in the midst of it. And unless you've lived through the current situation, it's hard to articulate as well. And so what I've gained in my knowledge and the tenacity of our population and people here is just, it's almost, it can be equally as difficult. When things are so ridiculously busy, there's a frustration that comes with that. And when we're in a situation that's, as they say, a downturn, it's all obviously they're huge challenges. And everyone, it's like, where's the in between? Why can't we find that? But I do feel that we're in a place, here we are, June 2017, and I feel like there's a new energy. Mm-hmm. And I'm fortunate that I feel like we're part of it, and I want to continue to be part of that new energy, because we're an educated, young, hungry city that has so much potential, and I think we're just sort of the tip of the iceberg right now. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. And it's so fantastic to hear that you guys have seen such tremendous growth through this downturn. That really says something about your company.
Thanks, Lisa.
You bet. Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with me and share your guys' story. I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to tell it. So thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much, and your time as well. And if there's anything else that I can do, just don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome.